Well, me and JR's ears are covered, so there will be no sticky substance check on this episode of Joe's on the Pros. And I think we're missing a few, but you know what? We're going to make it work. I'm Aiden, joined by JR today. Andrew and Brennan both out on assignment today. Well, not assignment, just out. You know what? They're slackers. JR, what is your theory on why they're gone?
You know, I think based on what transpired this past weekend, I think we're looking at two guys that are each tackling a little bit of a hangover for different reasons.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a crazy weekend. We had everything from a late inning 7-run comeback, a 15-inning 1-0 game, a sticky substance check of the ear, saying goodbye to two legends. We had it all. And it was a really, I feel like from my perspective, the word is depressing, but fun at the same time.
Yeah, it was exciting for me. I was excited by the games, especially on Friday and Saturday. Even Saturday, in the midst of college football and trying to watch a lot of those games, to be still hung up on those baseball games. I couldn't turn away.
No, I really couldn't. I mean, it helped that you basically had baseball starting at noon till about 10 o'clock at night, which was really nice. And as much as I dog on ESPN for a lot of their baseball coverage that they do, they have done a great job so far. I will give them that. And You know what? I know this might be Homer because I watched those games, even though the Rays lost 2-0. Boog Shambi is one of the best play-by-play guys in the biz. I loved listening to him do the play-by-play for that Rays Guardians series.
Yeah, Boog is awesome. He just, he brings that fun to the call while also being a great professional. We in Cincinnati, we recently changed over our main TV play-by-play guy to John Sadak, who had spent a ton of time in the minor leagues, and he has that same kind of fresh, upbeat, makes the game feel more fun just by being on the call.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's important, especially in a 15-inning 1-0 game, too. I mean, I watched that entire game, all right? I'm not going to lie to you. I was on the edge of my seat, and you know what? We'll just go ahead and throw up the graphic now, and we can see how all of us did in these predictions. We'll go row by row. We'll start with the Rays Guardian series because we were just talking about that. Me and Andrew had confidence in my boys. You and Brennan obviously went the right way in picking the Guardians, but that series was a whopping, a total of 5 runs or 4 runs scored across 2 games, one of which went 15 innings. I mean, I think wow is the only thing I have to say about that.
Especially that game on Saturday, they kept referencing obviously the Reds-Braves playoff game from a couple of years ago because that was another one that went such a long time being a scoreless game. And I had the same feeling watching that game as I did the Reds game because you just were waiting for something amazing to happen at the plate. But instead, we just kept getting great pitching and great defense. I mean, those plays by Jose Ramirez, I know one of them was very controversial about whether the first baseman stayed on the bag, but just for him to make those plays in those situations was just as thrilling as a 3-run home run or anything along those lines. It was just play after play by defenders, by pitchers, until finally Cleveland was able to get that home run to end it.
There are 2 things that stuck out, or 3 things I should say. Number 1, Jason Adam coming in with the bases loaded and no outs and working out of that jam.
Unbelievable.
That changeup might be the nastiest pitch in that game. Like, those changeups he were throwing were dropping off the plate. Number 2 to me, the Rays are such a good postseason team. I feel like we talk about them every year in the postseason of how good they are, and you just wait for October with these guys. They scored 1 run across these 2 games, and it came off a rookie center fielder who has barely any pop in Jose Siri. Randy did nothing. Yandy Diaz did nothing. I mean, just the guys you expect to do something did nothing. And then the third thing is, out of all the series, I think the umpiring was the most shaky in this series. The home plate umpire was definitely given some calls during that 15-inning game.
It was, you know, I know it's difficult, but man, there were some really bad calls there behind home plate that,
some really bad ones.
It was tough, but when you're in a spot like that, I was kind of joking that, the game started at noon, right? And by the time they got to the end, I mean, we're going on what, 5.5 hours of the game. And I was kidding that, these people in the stands, I mean, they're thinking I'm going to a noon baseball game. We're out of there by 3:30, something like that. Maybe they had evening plans. Like, how long were these people going to stay at the game waiting to see who might win?
Honestly, I mean, it was crazy. But a well done series. It could have gone either way, that series, honestly.
Absolutely.
And it was a fun one to watch. Let's move over to the one none of us got right. Mets versus Padres. I don't know if the storyline is the Mets pitching didn't show up, the Padres pitching did, or Trent Grisham just decided to show up with his 181 average and play out of his ever-loving mind.
Yeah, I have to admit, obviously I'm surprised the Mets lost. But again, we've talked before on the show that the Padres still have a ton of talent on that team. So, it was obviously something that could happen. But for Max Scherzer to come out and get shelled like he did in that first game, that was just really surprising to me, especially, given how much good pitching we did see both on Friday and Saturday and over the weekend, that we saw so many great pitchers, like in this Cleveland series we talked about, Luis Castillo, I'm sure we'll get to, there was so many great pitchers that put on performances, and here, Mad Max comes in and just gets knocked around.
I was watching that game, and the biggest thing to me is you saw it when the fastball was up and in, and the curveball was down and that slider was down and out, people couldn't touch him. But he center cut too many fastballs. And when, no offense to Mad Max, he's on the older side. And when you're only throwing 92 to 95 and you're center cutting fastballs, those are meatballs to these hitters.
Yeah.
Especially with the boppers in the San Diego lineup. Your Josh Bells, your Juan Sotos. Now we have to say your Trent Grishams. I mean, these guys are going to make you pay for those mistakes. And you saw DeGrom adjust his strategy and it worked. And you saw Bassett do the same thing and it worked for him. So it's just, if you're center cutting fastballs at 94 miles an hour, you're not going to win many ball games.
Yeah, those extra miles, a couple miles per hour, make a huge difference at this level. I mean, a drop from 97, 98 to your point, 93, 94 is huge.
It really is. And you know what? I honestly think something that hurt the Mets is, and as much as I hate to say this, but I think Buck Showalter tried to overmanage a little bit. You have such a good team. At some point, you just got to let your players play, not try to go as much into the overmanagement as he did.
Yeah, and I think that's something with a guy like Buck who definitely has a reputation as being, a very hands-on manager, somebody, who comes from that school. And I think, that maybe was something that I think Mets fans might have kind of feared all season long, that, once you got through the regular season and you got to the postseason, is Buck gonna play a little, be a little overbearing with this team and kind of not let them just, do what they're best at.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move over to this Cardinals-Phillies series. And I know, JR, you're happy about the outcome in this one. Me, I was sort of indifferent, but I don't like the Phillies at all. So I guess I'm a little upset. But at the same time, what was your take on this series? I think, the biggest headline, obviously, is two legends finally saying goodbye.
Well, I would say one legend and one, good player. But
which one is which? The world may never know.
But it's funny when we did our prediction show. I picked the Phillies to win, knowing that in my mind there really were only two possibilities with this series. Either Philly was going to win the first two games on the strength of Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, or the Cardinals were going to win in 3. To me, those were the only two possible results here to that series, is that Philly had to get those first two games and win that in order to win the series. And they were able to get it done. That first game, that epic comeback in the ninth inning was just amazing to watch. And it is a shame that, it looks like, Helsley's, injury with his hand, may have played a role in that. But, to come back off the mat like that and come back and win there and then carry that momentum over into game 2 and get it done. To me, the pressure was totally on Philly to finish that off on Saturday. If the Cardinals come back and win that, and they're facing Ranger Suarez in game 3, and that lineup destroys left-handed pitching, then all of a sudden the Cardinals have a huge, huge advantage trying to win that in game 3. So I think Philly definitely felt the pressure to hold on to that lead on Saturday and close it out there.
We'll talk about it more in the next segment here, but I don't know how much faith I have in Philly going forward. However, what I will say is that, I think the Cardinals pitching throughout this thing, I think starting pitching specifically was absolutely beautiful outside of Max Scherzer. Throughout every starter we saw in this series, between all 4 series, was beautiful. And I think, that continued here. And I think what was, the most successful is the fact that the Phillies never gave up. Like, this team is playing with so much grit. They were the team that no one gave any credit to, that no one thought was going to do anything. And kudos to them for coming out and winning. Like, that's really all you have to say about it.
Yeah, and they definitely have a gritty team, but also really, when you look at that squad, there are a lot of talented bats on that team. I think it's to your point, they really shined with those 2 starting pitchers. I don't know that they have the depth, to continue on and be able to make it through the later rounds. But in a 3-game series, when you're going to have to face, those 2 horses right off the bat, and you got a lineup that has, Schwarber, who led the league in home runs, and Bryce Harper back healthy, and all those other guys, they're definitely were going to be a tough out for anybody in a 3-game series.
Yeah, you got Schwarber, Harper, Nicholas Castellanos. You got,
JT Realmuto.
JT Realmuto, Reese Hoskins, who can still swing the bat. Just you can go down a list of good boppers in that lineup. That's just good. Let's talk about probably the most fun series out of all of the series.
Great.
I'm happy I was wrong about this one. Like, this one, I am happy. I am ecstatic I was wrong about this one. Mariners go into Toronto, say, Canada, you don't belong in the playoffs, ship them out on the backs of Luis Castillo and Cal Raleigh once again. Oh, baby, what a series.
That was so much fun, those 2 games. Luis Castillo, game 1, just incredible. And selfishly, having known him a little bit while he was here at the Reds, it was great to be able to, for him to be able to show that on such a big stage for the country, that he really is one of the best pitchers in the game. But you want to talk about the Phillies never giving up. How about those Mariners coming back from 8-1 deficit in that game on Saturday on the road? You could easily have packed it in thinking, all right, we can still win game 3, but they just kept coming back, and that it sure does add to their label of being a potential team of destiny.
That lineup is deadly, and from guys you don't expect it from. Who's expecting it from Cal Raleigh? Who's expecting it from Ty France hasn't had the season we expect from him. Who's expecting it out of probably three quarters of their lineup? You look at them and you go, what the heck is going on? And honestly, for me, I'm just happy that if the Rays couldn't do it, the Mariners could. Because the Mariners, to me, feel a lot like the Rays in the sense of what their team is made. Eugenio Suarez had a great series. I mean, you forget, like, I'm gonna name their lineup from this game, okay? Julio Rodriguez, Ty France, Eugenio Suarez, Cal Raleigh, Mitch Haniger, Adam Frazier, Carlos Santana, former Cleveland Guardian, Taylor Trammell, who came in to pinch run, Jared Kelenic, Dylan Moore, who came in, and J.P. Crawford. And then you did it on the other side. Hold on, I would like to say I called this happening, even in the podcast, even though I was semi-wrong on how it happened, I still called this right. Robbie Ray got absolutely blown up, and I say Robbie Ray was going to get rocked in his return, so I was semi-right, so I'll take a point on that one. But
yeah, you deserve a point there.
I do. You had Robbie Ray, Matt Brash, Paul Sewald, Diego Casilla, Matthew Festa, Penn Murphy, Andres Munoz, and George Kirby. Like, tell me how many of those names you've ever heard of outside of probably Robbie Ray, Paul Sewald, and Diego Castillo.
Yeah, and you could make the argument that, you know, the ascension of Julio Rodriguez, the addition of Luis Castillo might have the Mariners a year early. You know, they may be a year or so ahead of schedule, because a lot of those other guys, you feel like, you know, they may have just been kind of gelling together or just getting, you know, some early taste of the big leagues with an eye toward really being a contender next season. But next season is here, man. When you're making it to the ALDS.
I think what they meant by next season was, you know, they consider the postseason a different season. You know, we're changing from ball of summer to the boys of summer to the boys of fall.
There you go.
Something that
the boys of summer become the legends of the fall, my man.
Exactly. They don't call him Mr. October for nothing. So I didn't make standings because it's pretty easy to follow. We'll let Andrew make the standings for next week. Me and Andrew went 0-4. Brendan and JR went 3-1. Hey, there's your standings for the week. So let's little sneak peek there. Whoops. But let's move on and let's go up here to the new series. So I think I got these series right, and I'm pretty sure I did. We got San Diego traveling to LA. We got Philly heading to Atlanta. We got Cleveland heading to New York. And we've got Seattle heading to Houston. Me and JR has Andrew's picks. I've got Brennan's picks in here. So it's going to be a fun little, you know, back and forth little thing here. So why don't we start out let's start out with Dodgers and Padres, and let's go ahead and do the two guys who aren't here first. If you want to go ahead and give us Andrew's first here.
Yeah, so Andrew's going with the Dodgers. He did say that, you know, the Padres look better than expected, so he thinks this one's going to go the full 5 games. But he does expect the Dodgers to come up with a win and move on to the NLCS.
I don't hate that pick. According to Brennan here, he's going Dodgers. He also has it. He also has it going the distance. So here is Brennan's little blurb he sent me. He said, I think the Padres are good and they'll scare the Char Bunny out of the Dodgers. I don't think they're good enough to win outright. It'll be close, but the Dodgers will take the series. He's got Dodgers winning over the Padres in 3-2. This for me is a very interesting series because obviously these are two teams who know each other very well. My question is we saw what the Dodgers could do, but their bullpen is starting to get taxed. Obviously, their rotation is taxed going 3 games with the Padres side. Dodgers are fresh and rested, but are they going to continue to be what they are and just sort of flame out?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I am going to go with the Dodgers. I know San Diego is hot coming off that series. I just don't see them having enough.
Yeah, you know, I'm in that camp too. I mean, it's easy to put the money on the Dodgers here with the season they've had, but you know, they won 14 out of the 19 games against the Padres during the regular season. So, you know, they definitely beat them up during the season. Obviously, you know, as a baseball fan with no real rooting interest, you just wish that Tatis had not been suspended and you could see this series with him in the lineup, because my, oh my, that would have been a whole lot of fun seeing this series take place. with the Padres at full strength, and who knows, what would have happened there. I think for me, the only way the Padres can walk out of this and pull the upset and get the win is if they really get some ace level performance from a guy like Yu Darvish, from a guy like Blake Snell, somebody like that to really step up from the pitching side to try to contain that Dodgers offense. And I just don't see it happening.
From a baseball fan perspective, I want to see San Diego win because I want to see the Dodgers, I feel like, are turning into the Yankees that they just pay for everyone and no one wants to see them win or succeed. Because, no offense, I like seeing it when you grow your own talent. And I get there's the argument, oh, well, they've grown some of their own talent. Yeah, but you paid for Mookie Betts. You paid for Freddie Freeman. I mean, we can continue, but I digress. I think the key to San Diego to winning is going to be keeping their bats hot, but also having your starters go as deep as possible because your bullpen is thin.
Yeah. That's why I say for me that's such the key is their starting pitching performance, because you're not going to be able to have Mike Clevenger go 5 innings and then have the bullpen lock the Dodgers down from there. You're not going to be able to have Yu Darvish go 5 2/3 and then hand it. They just don't have the arms in that bullpen to be able to play that game.
They aren't the Dodgers who you could have 9 different pitchers throw an inning apiece and they'd still be fine for the next day or the rest of the series. You know what I mean? So
exactly,
you're not that team. And I just think this Dodgers lineup is too overpowering. They can match up really well against left and right-handed pitching. And these two teams see each other a lot, so they know every trick that each other have. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this series. Let's go over to the next NL series. We got Phillies and Braves. We'll let JR and I go first on this one here, and then we'll give the other two guys picks. This series, I hate to say it this way, but almost the tale of the two misfits. I feel like the Braves had no real hype going into the playoffs. Obviously, the Phillies didn't either. But defending world champions against one of the hungrier teams in this playoff. What's sort of your analysis on this, and which team do you give the edge to?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here, and we haven't really touched on this yet, but again, the Braves have been playing such great baseball for a long time. That's why they ended up kind of outdistancing the Mets for the division lead. It really will be interesting to see how these teams with a bye respond to being off for almost a week. The last regular season game was last Wednesday, October 5th. And so these games are going to be taking place Tuesday, October 11th to start out with. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams respond. Obviously they're able to get their pitching rotation set and everything, but you may not be able to account for kind of the cool off factor there. The Braves, obviously they've got a lot going for them with their lineup and their pitching. I think the Spencer Strider injury with his oblique and how he's doing there. If that flares up, that could be an issue. I think the Phillies obviously would be in a much better spot if they were able to start off with Wheeler and Nola going 1-2 like they did in that wild card series. But that they're still going to be able to throw Ranger Suarez out there to start game 1, who pitched really well against the Braves during the course of this season.
Also, shout out to Spencer Strider today signing a 6-year, $75 million extension. Are the Braves ever going to are the Braves ever going to stop getting away with underpaying these young players? I mean, obviously it's not an underpay. They're getting the longevity. These guys now know they'll be there for a while, but like, Jesus, I know it's getting away from postseason baseball for a second, but like the Braves just have the recipe, and it seems to keep whatever's cooking in the pot of chili working there.
Yeah, well, and I think in this case, it's more setting the foundation for the second contract, right? They're basically going ahead and buying out all of his team control years, so that he doesn't have to worry about any contentious things with arbitration. He doesn't get the auto renewal of his contract. He gets paid a little, a bit more than what he would probably be owed during the course of this, and maybe that gets them some goodwill to sign a solid contract for once he would be able to hit free agency.
Yeah. So for me with this series, I think whoever takes game 2 is going to take this. Because I think Philly's got some momentum coming in. But again, it's Ranger Suarez. He's not Aaron Nola. He's not Zach Wheeler. You're probably going to go up against, I'm not sure who they're going to throw game 1 if they've announced it yet. My guess is probably Soroka.
It's looking like Max Fried. Max Fried is gonna pitch.
It was going to be Fried game 1, Soroka game 2, or vice versa. Both of them very talented.
Yeah.
For me, it's going to come down to the same thing we talked about in that San Diego-LA series, because both of these teams can hit. Both of these teams can flat out rake. There's no questions about that. Which bullpen is going to hold up? And so for me, I'll make the pick here. I think even though they're cold, I don't think it's going to have as much of an impact. Maybe game 1, they might come out struggling a little bit. But I think overall, we're going to see the Atlanta Braves come out very, very strong and hot here. I think the Braves win in 4 games.
Yeah, I think sort of like the LA San Diego series. I think the Phillies are going to be able to give the Braves a little bit more of a fight, than maybe a lot of people think. But there's just too much talent, too much firepower with that Braves team for me to pick against them in a 5-game series like this. I just have a hard time seeing the Phillies being able to get those 3 wins.
What does our good friend Andrew say?
So Andrew, again, we're talking about an emotional Cardinals fan here who's probably still recovering a little bit. He says, Braves over Phillies in 3. The Phillies must pay for what they did to me.
You know what? That's valid. And you know what? I said the same thing in 2009. I'm not going to lie, Andrew. It's okay. Brennan, I guess we're all on the same page in the NL. Because Brennan also said Braves in 3, I should say. He said, and I quote, these are direct quotes, by the way. It's a nice story for Philadelphia, but they're going to Atlanta and going to get rocked. Only sweep of the LDS. How many games do you think it goes?
I think it goes 4. I do think Philly, with one of their star pitchers, is able to pull one out in there. But I would say this is the most mismatched of these 4 series.
Yeah, I'd agree. All right, let's move over to the AL side of the bracket. We've got Cleveland heading to New York to face the New York Yankees. Yankees probably favored in this one. Cleveland coming in off the backs of strong pitching. Bats were pretty quiet. But again, the Yankees, is the cool down going to hurt them? We've already heard Noah Chapman will not be on the playoff roster. He is staying home in Miami. Not sure exactly how roster creation is going to go for the Yankees, but I think this series is probably the most I wouldn't say the most exciting. The hardest one to pick out of the 4. The Guardians don't get a lot of credit after what they did in the Central this year.
Yeah, even when we made our predictions last week, there was Brendan and I picked them to win, but I think even Brendan was a little hesitant about it in that case. That talking about just how weak and how not really well respected that AL Central is, but I just think you see Cleveland, they really have been on a roll here down the stretch, and the fact that they were able to keep that momentum going in that wild card series, they could very well keep that momentum going here also against a team that, to your point, does have a little bit of drama behind the scenes going on, and obviously has all the pressure in the world on it every single time they're in the playoffs.
Yeah. I'll give you Brennan's pick first here. Brennan is going to take the Guardians to continue with his run of form here. And his direct quote for this series is, hold on, just lining this up here. His direct quote for this series, he says, Guardians pitching rocks, Yanks win 1, but the series feels like a blowout. 3-1 Guardians over the Yankees.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
What's going on here, JR? What's your side?
You know, I actually am going to agree with Brendan here. I am going with Cleveland to take this. I don't think it's going to be in 4 games. I think they are going to have to get it to a 5th game, which, based on the way the pitching rotations are lining up, could be a Shane Bieber versus Garrett Cole game 5, which would be a pretty electric pitching matchup there. But so it looks like Cleveland is probably going to get Bieber in game 2, Tristan McKenzie in game 3, which means they could bring Bieber back for that game 5. And I think, that's going to bode well for their chances of pulling this out.
I'm making this pick with the heart. This pick comes from the heart. And even though I'm upset, even though I'm sad, I hate the Yankees more. Let's go Guardians, baby. You got a fan in me for this series. I saw what the Guardians pitching staff, bullpen, all of it can do against my Tampa Bay Rays. And knowing how similar the Rays and Yankees are, the Yankees are going to struggle offensively. Aaron Judge can only carry you so far.
Yeah, I think there's been, especially over this last month, a whole lot of standing by and watching Aaron Judge hit, and I think that has dulled their bats a little bit heading into the playoffs here.
I agree. What does Andrew go with? Is he going to be the dissenter?
We finally have a dissenter.
Finally,
with Andrew going with the Yankees. He says Yankees in 4. The Yankees can actually hit, unlike the Rays. His words, not mine.
Not. Wow, Andrew. I mean, you're not wrong, though. The Rays could not hit to save anything. I mean, it was a rough series. Let's go to the most fun series. The series I'm most looking forward to.
Yes.
It's Minute Maid. It's going to be fun. Houston taking on the boys of fall, the legends of fall, the Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh led Seattle Mariners. Holy, what a series.
This could be a really fun one. One of the things I love about the Mariners and why they're such a fun team is the way they celebrate after wins with their dance when they get in a circle and dance. When have you ever seen a Major League Baseball team do something like that after a game? And it's so much fun. And then, of course, on the other side, you got Dusty Baker, who is still one of the biggest characters in baseball as the manager of the Astros. And holy moly, that is a loaded team from top to bottom, pitching, offense, bullpen, just stacked.
Now, you obviously have some connection to Dusty Baker, former Cincinnati Reds manager. Does your heart influence this here, or are you going strictly based off of what the stats and the eye test say?
So this matchup, I feel like I had the same feeling as I did with the St. Louis Philly matchup, where everything seemed to point to the Cardinals winning. The Cardinals are awesome at home. The Cardinals have a stacked lineup. The Cardinals have better pitching, and it just felt like that was too much karma, and that there's something would need to happen, and the Phillies would win. I feel a lot of the same with this matchup here, where everything points to the Astros being this juggernaut of a team that's ready to go to the ALCS for the 6th season in a row, which is pretty incredible. They've got the lineup. They've got Yordan Alvarez. They've got Justin Verlander, who's going to win another Cy Young this year with the way he's pitched. But there's destiny, and destiny is not afraid of anything. And I just feel like the Mariners have that vibe to them, amazing way they won that series with the Blue Jays. I think they keep it going here, and we get a real Cinderella matchup in that ALCS.
The Toronto Blue Jays blew it. Let's be honest here. But you want to know what that game showed me? This team has got more heart and fight and determination. It reminded me, it felt like, I believe it's a scene from a movie. I believe it's a football movie. If you drop a pass, you'll run a mile. If you run a wrong route, you'll run a mile. It felt like that's what they were going for here. And you know what? I think that the Seattle Mariners and Julio Rodriguez, they pull a Ricky Bobby. They think they're the best there is, plain and simple. And they wake up in the morning and piss excellence. They go into Houston and they take it in 4 games. They split in Houston. They go home behind the city of Seattle, and they absolutely rock the city of Seattle. And you know what? I'm going Mariners, baby.
See us rise.
See us rise. Oh boy. I guess I'll go with the resident Mariners fan on the podcast. I guess we'll go with Brendan's next. And not gonna lie, I stole a little bit of his thunder. Hear me out here. Mariners steal 1 on the road and go back to Seattle 1-1. Home crowd advantage is a plus, and energy that hasn't been felt in that stadium since 2001. They win both and advance. We're going with, if it wants to put pace, we're going with Seattle for Brennan. So 3 of us picking the same way all across the board. Is Andrew going to dissent once more, or is he rising with us and hopping on the train?
We have another dissenter.
Boo.
And now, I do say that with the caveat that his comment is, I'm a Mariners fan the rest of the playoffs, but this will be really hard to win over Houston. He actually said he is hoping that this means he fulfills his Mike Greenberg kiss of death and that the reverse juju gets the Mariners to win in some convoluted fashion. But
So hold on. Because now I feel like this is just a running gag each episode. Someone has to get it. Andrew, congratulations. You get the asterisk of the week.
There we go. Asterisk.
And how fitting is it that it's the Houston Asterisks?
Exactly.
How fitting.
How fitting. There you go. Tie it all together, baby.
It's beautiful. All right. So let's do what we did for the last one. This time, just me and you, obviously, because we didn't get answers from the other guys. Let's start with the LA-San Diego series. Who's going to be the best hitter in the series and the best pitcher of the series?
It's hard for me to go against a guy like Mookie Betts. He always seems to step up, in big games and really come through. And I think he does that for the Dodgers here. I think he really steps up there and has a big series for them. On the pitching side, I mean, Julio Arias has had such a great season for them. I think he's going to be able to come out and really take the reins in game 1, set the stage there, and really get the Dodgers off to a strong start.
So there's this guy in Los Angeles. He's known around town, but he hasn't really been known this season. But playoff baseball does crazy things to people, JR. And you know what? Hitter of this series, hitting 2 bombs in this series, will be none other than Cody Bellinger.
All right, okay.
I like what he brings to the table. And you know what? I think on the pitching side of things, we saw him finally break out of his funk last year. I think he does it again. I can't go against Clayton Kershaw. I can't go against him.
Yeah, he could make it 2 years in a row where he steps up and kind of puts that reputation of his aside.
All right, let's move over to this next series, Braves, Phillies. I'll go ahead and start with this one. I'm going to go with the one guy who wasn't a part of this World Series run last year. I'm going to go with Matt Olson, first baseman, left-handed hitter. He's going to feast off the Phillies' right-handed heavy relief core. And pitching-wise, I'm going to go with, even though he's coming off the oblique, I'm going to go with the new contract man in Strider.
Yeah, that kid's shown a lot of ability over the course of the season. I think for me, when you first started to talk about your hitter, I thought you were going to go where I was going, because I was going to bring up somebody who missed out on the run last year, and that's Ronald Acuna Jr. I think he is ready and anxious to make his mark in the postseason, and especially in Game 1 with Ranger Suarez on the mound. I think we see him get things started off well at the plate, and he really gets a chance to put a punctuation mark on his postseason resume.
I like it. I like it.
And then, on the mound, again, the Braves have such good pitching. Strider obviously has been great. Kyle Wright, Max Fried. I think this is going to be one of those series where, he had a little bit of an up and down season, but I think, Kenley Jansen, with his experience in the postseason, is really going to be able to lock a couple of these games down for them and really, really come through in the clutch.
I like it. Let's move over to this Guardians-Yankees series. We'll both do our hitters and then both do our pitchers in this one. So why don't you kick us off with the first hitter here?
For the wild card round, I took Jose Ramirez. I mean, he is such a big part of that Cleveland lineup and really stirs the drink, so to speak, with that team. I think in this one, he could have a big series again. But I'm looking at, a Stephen Kwan who has struggled a little bit down the stretch, struggled a little bit in those games. But I think he finds a way to kind of get it going and really find a way to set the table there at the top of that lineup.
I'm going to take two hitters, actually, because I have a tie here. Both guys, I just couldn't pick one from this series. I think one guy, another rookie outfielder, Oscar Gonzalez. I really like his at-bats that he had. Had some really good ABs. But another guy I want to take is catcher Austin Hedges. I think he's poised for a breakout here in this series. I just think this is the type of pitching he would feed on. And that short porch, he likes to go oppo, that short porch and right in Yankee Stadium. We could see some nice dingers. Now we'll both do our pitchers. I'll start here. I'm going to go ahead and go with the guy who carved up Tampa Bay in 6 innings of work in Tristan McKenzie. I think he just carves through this Yankees hitters, probably throws 7 or 8 shutdown innings, gives you about 10 punchies on the day.
Yeah, Tristan McKenzie, I mean, he really, really did pitch well in that game. I'm going a starting pitcher as well, but I'm going Shane Bieber. I think, in my mind, this series goes 5 games. And I think for the Cleveland to be able to pull that out in 5 games, it means he's winning Game 2. He's coming back in Game 5 and outdueling Garrett Cole to get Cleveland the win in Game 5. And if you can win 2 games in a 5-game series, that makes you a real stud.
I agree. All right, Houston going up against Seattle. We'll start with the pitching side of things. I'll let you take the first pitcher.
Yeah, part of me really wants to go ahead and pick Luis Castillo here for the Mariners.
That's where I thought you were going.
But, for the simple fact that would be a little too obvious for me, being the Reds guy here, going with him. I'm looking at their bullpen and knowing that that's going to have to come through. And I think Andres Munoz going to come in there, bringing the heat. He's got great stuff coming out of that Seattle bullpen, and they're going to need that during the course of this series against that Houston lineup. I don't think their starting pitching, even with Castillo pitching well, is going to be able to go super deep in some of these games. So they're going to need their bullpen to step up. So I'm going Andres Munoz.
I like the pick there. I'm going to go ahead and take on the other side another reliever, but I'm going to go with George Kirby here, the young thrower from the right-hand side here. I think he impressed me, even though he had a walk. He really impressed me in his inning against Toronto, and he came up against the heart of that lineup and made it look easy. Now going to the hitting side. I love catchers. We know this. I'm going Cal Raleigh, baby. Keep the hot streak hitting. That man is bursting onto the scene. The big switch hitting dumper. I love switch hitters. I love catchers. Cal Raleigh fits the bill. I love what he's doing, and I see him just continuing.
Yeah, I can't argue with that pick at all. For me, I mentioned in the first round, I love looking at superstars who are at the point where they can really step up and make a difference. And I think Julio Rodriguez is just primed time to show off for the national stage and, make the first of many trips for his Mariners to the ALCS and book a trip there. I think this postseason we're going to look back on Julio Rodriguez's performance and compare it to Andrew Jones back in the day for Atlanta as kind of his introduction to the national spotlight. And I see him having a big series here for Seattle.
Last question, and before we go ahead and do our outro here, in any of the series, you can pick any player from any of these series. Which superstar batter comes up and just is quiet?
Yeah, that's a tough one there. I think for me, I feel like I have to pick a superstar on one of the teams that I'm picking to lose. I think that would probably make sense as a reason why they're not able to pull it out. I'm going Manny Machado. I think he, is going to struggle in that Dodgers series, and I think that's going to be a big reason why San Diego is not going to be able to get the job done.
I'm going to go ahead and go with probably a pick that not many people want to hear. The man hits home runs. The man can swing a bat. But I don't think he can in this series I'm going against. I'm saying Yordan Alvarez does not have a good series against the Seattle Mariners pitching staff. I think they give him fits inside. I don't think he's able to rotate his hands well enough. And I think we see like an 0 for 15 with a walk sort of series out of our friend Yordan out there in Houston.
Yeah, that would be a big reason why they would potentially come up short in that series. That's for sure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you joining us here on another episode of Joe's on the Pros. As we mentioned, Andrew and Brennan out this week, or out for this episode, I should say. So me and JR decided to take the reins and give you guys some postseason baseball content. I believe the next episode coming out after this one is our Week 5 review as well as Week 6 picks in the NFL. Some good primetime games that are coming up in that one. We was taking a look ahead today. In Week 6, you've got an NFC East battle, we should say, in the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles going against the Dallas Cowboys. But you didn't come to this episode to listen to that. We'll talk about that next week, however. And it should be a really interesting set of playoffs here. 3 of us going the same exact way. Andrew deciding to dissent in the AL. But whatever happens, it will be interesting. We'll come back with another baseball episode talking about the both championship series. We'll give you some in-depth analysis on that as well. Then we'll obviously do a World Series preview and some off-season coverage as well. But for now, we appreciate you joining us. Make sure to check out all the links in the description, as well as hit that like button and subscribe. For now, this has been another episode of Joe's on the Pros. For Andrew and Brennan, who are not here, for JR and myself, Aiden, we appreciate you joining us. We hope you have a great night, and we'll see you guys next time.